जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So I will continue reading from this next paragraph. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the surrender of the living entity unto the absolute person. So, for every book we study, there has to be a level of the person who is reading it. So, the level of the person who wants to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the level or the beginning level? It begins with the surrender of the living entity unto the absolute person. That is the beginning level. This surrender is made with full awareness of the devotee's oneness with the absolute person and at the same time his eternal position of servitorship towards the absolute person. In the material conception, one falsely thinks himself as the lord of all that he surveys. Everything that I look at, everything that I see or I think of, I think that I start assuming that okay, I am the Lord, I am the master. Everything should happen according to my desires. That is a material conception, and it is a false conception. Consequently, he is always troubled by the threefold miseries of life. Because somebody has this kind of conception, therefore the miseries come in. Sometimes in certain situations we cry and we feel that we are suffering so much. Our family members, they are troubling us so much, or the office people, they are troubling us so much, or somebody who is a student maybe living in a hostel. Seniors are ragging so much, causing so much trouble, etc. etc. Actually, the reason is because one is in the false conception that he is the Lord and everything should happen according to his desires, according to what I want. I should be in control of everything. And when that doesn't happen, the mind creates havoc. That havoc is actually the cause of all trouble. And therefore, these living entities in the material world, all of us, we are troubled by the threefold miseries of life: Adhyatmic, Adhidaivic, and Adi Bhautik. But as soon as one comes to know his real position in the transcendental service, he at once becomes freed from all the above mentioned threefold miseries. As soon as one understands that Krishna, he is the supreme proprietor. It is out of his will that this entire cosmic manifestation is working, directly or indirectly, whatever. Of course, in the cosmic manifestation, the material nature is directly taking care. So, therefore, Krishna has just given this duty to the external energy, to his own external energy. So, he's not directly into it, he's indirectly um, taking care of it. But he is aware of everything, he is cognizant of every detail. Abhigya. We read this previously that the Supreme Lord is Abhigya and he's Swarat. He's independent and he's cognizant of every tiny, minutest detail that is happening here in this material world. So one who knows the real position in the transcendental service, that person becomes free from all the above mentioned threefold miseries. Some mosquito comes and bite. Materialistic people will say that, "Arey, mosquitoes, we have to kill these mosquitoes. These mosquitoes are becoming a problem. It is because of the mosquito bite that we got dengue and malaria." Of course, at a gross level, of course, it is because of the mosquito, but threefold miseries. It is ultimately everything is happening under the direct not direct, but under the will of the Supreme Lord. But the devotees who are aware of this, they are fearless about the situation. If a materialist has to go out somewhere, they will be fully concerned that okay, I have to ensure that everything is perfect. I have to ensure that we are carrying all these sprays, and we have to ensure that no mosquitoes bite us. Are we controlling the mosquitoes? We can't control our own body. We can't control our own motions. Then what can we control a mosquito? But the materialist people think in that way, that we have to control these mosquitoes, that we so that they don't bite us. A devotee will take all the precautions. It's not that they will be careless. They will take all the precautions necessary, fully knowing ultimately Krishna is the doer. So, therefore, if after all the precautions also the mosquito has bitten and I've got some malaria, dengue, or whatever it is, it's Krishna's will, because he is the supreme proprietor. And not just that, supreme proprietor doesn't mean that Krishna will do whimsically something. No, he is the supreme well-wisher. He's cognizant of everything. He knows when to give what and when to not do what. Therefore, one who has that amount of faith, complete conviction, faith in the Supreme Lord, is never fearful. Why this happened? Now what will happen? Yes, there may be a due to some mishap or something, there will be sadness. It is not that devotees have no emotions. Emotions will be there, but bewilderment will not be there. Bewilderment happens to those who are not in Krishna consciousness. Bewilderment happens to those who do not have faith or conviction in the Supreme Lord. That is the difference. The position of the servitor is wasted in the material conception of life. In an attempt to dominate material nature, the living entity is forced to offer his service to the relative material energy. That means one may think that I am the master and I am doing and I am the controller, but actually he's forced to act according to the ways that the material energy wants. Maya, illusory energy, the external energy of Krishna. So the person is actually forced to work according to that, but because he is an illusion, he's thinking that he is doing it. It's just like um, sometimes in the dream, there are many people who have a tendency of sleepwalking. So that sleepwalking is like that. When they are not in control, they are not in their control, but they are walking. And the same walking, when they are awake, in the awakened state, they think that okay, it's my desire, I'm walking. If I want to drink water and I know that water is in the other room, just because I desire, so I am uh, walking with my desire. I'm walking from this room to the other room to get the water. Actually, we are still under the mode of material nature. This is an illusion that because I am in control of myself, therefore I'm walking to the other room. That is an illusion. It is happening because Krishna, who is the permitter, he permits. When I have a desire, Krishna permits that desire. Because if Krishna does not permit, then I will not be able to fulfill my desire. Therefore, if I have a desire, and Krishna permits, only then I can walk from this room to the other room to get the water. But in the material world, what is everybody thinking? That I am in control of everything. Therefore, they are forced to offer the service to this illusory energy, the relative material energy of the Lord. A person is always serving. uh, Living entities, jivatmas, all the jivatmas, they are always serving. Either they are serving Krishna, like the devotees, they are serving Krishna, or they are serving this material energy of Krishna, which is Maya. There is no third way, there is no middle way. One is either serving Krishna or they are serving Maya. When this service is transferred to the Lord in pure consciousness, of spiritual identity, the living entity at once becomes free from the encumbrances of material affliction. When this service, this we have to serve somebody, either Krishna or Maya. So when that service, whatever we are doing, is transferred to the Lord in pure consciousness, we are doing some service, but our absorption is somewhere else. Our mind is somewhere else. That is not pure consciousness. Okay, we are doing the services, Krishna will gradually purify us, undoubtedly. But when somebody does the service in pure consciousness of the spiritual identity, that thinking of Krishna, thinking, knowing that, remembering Krishna, knowing that I'm the servant of Krishna, and the spiritual world, these services are eternally going on, and completely absorbed in such kind of pure consciousness, that living entity at once becomes free from the encumbrances of material affliction, because we are so attached to the results and everything. We are in material world, everybody is attached to everything. Therefore there is so much material affliction, therefore there is so much suffering. But as soon as a person is completely has dovetailed his senses and desires towards the service of Krishna, towards lotus feet of Krishna, has dovetailed the consciousness in Krishna, then at once they are free. But in the material world, we are sometimes here, sometimes there. Once one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada said that, Prabhupada, sometimes I fall off from Krishna consciousness and I fall into Maya. Srila Prabhupada laughed and said, we are always in Maya. Only sometimes we are in Krishna consciousness. Thinking that we are Krishna conscious and sometimes we are in Maya, that is the greatest Maya. That is the greatest illusion that we can have, because we are always in Maya. That is the trick of illusion. Over and above this, Srimad Bhagavatam is the personal commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by Srila Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in spiritual realization. He was able to write it by the mercy of Sri Narad Muni, who is the spiritual master of Srila Vyasadeva. So one must always remember what is Mahaprabhu telling us? What are we talking about? The spiritual realm. All this is not material on the material level. It is on the spiritual platform. On the spiritual platform, one who is the Shaktiavish avatar of the Supreme Lord himself, Srila Vyasadeva, is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. That Srila Vyasadeva, because he received the mercy of his spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni, that is why he was able to write this Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have to understand what kind of mood is there in the spiritual realm. It is not that Srila Vyasadeva said, I am the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, therefore I don't need any spiritual master. I will do what I want. No, that did not happen. Srila Vyasadeva is an incarnation of Sri Narayan. Okay. So the same thing Prabhupada is saying here now, that the who is Narayan? Narayan is the supreme personality, is the personality of Godhead. Therefore, there is no question about his authority. There is no question about his authority, that he's not the authority, or he doesn't have sufficient knowledge, or he doesn't have sufficient intelligence. No. Although he is the author of all the Vedic literatures, he specifically recommends the study of Srimad Bhagavatam above all the other books written by him only, authored by him. But he himself, the author himself, is recommending. In other Purans, various methods for worshipping demigods are mentioned, but in Srimad Bhagavatam, only the worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead is mentioned. In fact, the worship of other demigods has been condemned there. The Supreme Lord is the whole body, and the demigods are different parts of that body. Thus, one more point, the demigods are not condemned. The worship of demigods, that is condemned. Why? One who does it in the mood to get some material gain for sense gratification, that is condemned. But the devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna, they give the highest respect to all the demigods because they are all servants of the Supreme Lord Krishna. The mood of a devotee is never, they are, the Lord is Adoshadarshi, the devotees of the Lord are also Adoshadarshi. They cannot see fault in even the most fallen persons. Then what to speak of demigods who are on a very higher platform than all of us? So, so I wanted to make this point clear because many times people say that the devotees of ISKCON, they are very disrespectful to demigods. That is a very, very wrong idea. Firstly, we have to understand the position of the demigods. If somebody comes and say that demigods and Krishna are at the same level, then that is offensive. That is not just wrong, that is offensive. And who takes the offense? The demigods themselves take offense. The demigods, if somebody wants to worship if somebody wants to worship Lord Shiva and they don't even know what are the teachings of Lord Shiva, then what are you worshipping? What do you mean by worship? Just okay, whatever you like for your sense gratification, you are getting a free way that, yeah, Lord Shiva also takes ganja and Lord Shiva also drinks some alcohol, so therefore we can also drink. That is a free way. That is for that. Do not, why should you, uh, for no reason, why do you have to bring Lord Shiva in there? Lord Shiva is not taking ganja and all that. In fact, what Lord Shiva has taught in his, what are the teachings, what are the instructions of Lord Shiva? If somebody says they are devotees of Lord Shiva, then they should know what are the teachings, not just from random some serials and all that. I watched that serial, Devo Ke Dev Mahadev, or some other serial of Lord Shiva, and from the serial I'm learning. Arre, if you are really worshipping Shiva, then you should read what Lord Shiva has written and understand. Lord Shiva is saying that he himself is constantly meditating on the names, holy names of the Lord. He is glorifying Krishna. He is glorifying the glories of, he is glorifying Srimati Radharani. He is telling Mother Parvati, who is for Lord Shiva's wife, he is teaching Parvati Devi about the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he himself is saying that he is a devotee of Lord Krishna. He is a servant of Lord Krishna. He desired that he wants to become the best devotees of Lord Krishna for his pleasure. But no, that people will not see. That all that people are not interested in. So therefore, who are genuinely sincere devotees who know the philosophy, who have knowledge, who have heard from bona fide devotees, they will understand what is the position of the demigods, and based on that position, they will be able to offer the highest respect to all the demigods. That is a devotee. Not just namesake. Just because somebody is wearing tilak and kanthi and dhoti and kurta doesn't mean, and if that person has no knowledge, if their behavior is very, very arrogant, just from an external look, if somebody says, "Arey, this person is from ISKCON," that is simply um, ruining the actual glories of ISKCON. Therefore, one who really wants to, um, one who is really serious in Krishna consciousness, should first hear from bona fide devotees, should first hear from Srila Prabhupada what is the philosophy, not just simply jump from this book to that book. I have read Bhagavatam 10th canto. And who asked you to read 10th canto? Even Prabhupada has asked not to read the 10th canto. Then who are you to read 10th canto? Or some random book I am reading from this Puran and that Puran. Who has asked you to read this Puran and that Puran? What will you understand? You don't have that intelligence only. If you had that intelligence, then our acharyas would have said that yes, you read that. But because we don't have that intelligence, or therefore people simply whimsically try to read these things and portray themselves as some great devotees. And that is the greatest danger, posing greatest danger to whatever Srila Prabhupada has given his blood and sweat for in creating this institution, in creating this. Um, it's an international society, and from various parts of the world, people are joining in this institution with their own cultures. They are coming from different backgrounds. Even within India, in different states, the culture is so different that it can give a shock for somebody who has forever lived in one certain part of India. If they have to suddenly move and start living in another part of the same country, for them also sometimes it is cultural shock. Then what to speak of the entire world? It is so vast and the culture is so variegated. Therefore, we have to always understand that we will see different kinds of devotees. Just because somebody is wearing dhoti, kurta, tilak, kanthi, and has a japamala, yes, of course they are devotees, because Mahaprabhu has confirmed that anybody who has chanted the name even once somebody has chanted and they are not even wearing dhoti, kurta, kanthi, they are also devotees. They are also to be considered Vaishnavas. Of course, at a um, not not on the, you don't place pure devotees and that's neophyte devotee on the same platform. That is again foolishness. But we respect everyone. Therefore, it is very important that as devotees, we are respectful to each and every living entity. What to speak of devotees and non-devotees? Every living entity. Then where is the question of not respecting the demigods who are on a higher planet, although in the material world, but still they are on a much higher platform than us. They are serving the Lord. They have been given that position. So the Supreme Lord is the whole body, and the demigods are different parts of that body. Thus, one who worships the Supreme Lord need not worship the demigods, for the Supreme Lord is at once fixed in one's heart. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distinguished Srimad Bhagavatam from all the other Purans by recommending it as the spotless Puran. So, whenever this discussion comes, it is very important that many times people argue without sufficient knowledge. And whenever such a situation, if we ever face that kind of a situation when somebody is arguing on these topics without sufficient knowledge, then it is best to not um, waste our precious time in such arguments, because we have to become serious in Krishna consciousness. So, with due respect, we can say Hare Krishna and we can move out from there. Yes, somebody has knowledge, somebody is really interested to understand. Maybe they have questions, but they are not arguing like a blind person. They want to know. That is a different thing. They have an open heart and mind. But if somebody doesn't have that and their only motive is they're so absorbed in the materialistic modes of nature that their only point of view is to prove their point without and looking left and right and center, then we should simply respectfully leave from that place and not waste our own time. So we will pause here for today, and Krishna willing, we'll again continue reading tomorrow. Thank you very much for your kind association. Vancha kalpatrishta kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Sri Srimad Shiva Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I just remembered one incident actually. Sorry. Um, that we have all heard of Bharat Maharaj, and how Bharat Maharaj, he leaves his home, his country, his kingdom, his wife, his children, everything, and then he goes to the forest just to be absorbed in devotional services, and he performs intense devotional services, and then he comes to the platform of bhava, um, which is the highest that one can reach in a material body. He was on that stage of bhava, and there when he was doing his nam jap, at that time there was a deer who was attacked by a lion in front of him. And when the lion runs behind this deer was pregnant and then gives birth to the um, to the calf, uh, the baby deer, and doesn't realize that it has already given birth. So therefore, it runs out of fear from there. And then what happens is that um, Bharat Maharaj sees that this little baby calf is left alone all by itself. Therefore, Bharat Maharaj picks it up, and that is a natural um, thing for a devotee to do, because devotees are naturally compassionate. So when he does that, he starts taking care of this baby deer. But eventually, what happens by, and this is a very natural thing, because I remember we had pets at home, and you get very attached to these pets because they are so innocent. They are so innocent and they are so reciprocative. Even humans are not that reciprocative, or sometimes humans are may not be that what to say. I mean, it's more, you get more attached to an animal. You easily get attached to an animal more than a human being, because animals don't speak. Therefore, when you tell them to do something, shut up and sit down, they will do that. But humans, they will say, no, I will not shut up. And because they spoke against my will, therefore we don't like them. So that attitude itself is the most dangerous attitude. Therefore we have more attachment to animals than we have towards human beings, and that same attitude will keep us and ensure that we remain in this material world, because if we carry this attitude, we are going to do the same thing in the spiritual world. So therefore Krishna will ensure you stay in the material world. Anyhow, so Bharat Maharaj, he gets attached to this deer, and eventually his devotional services become lax. And then one day, this baby deer was nowhere to be found, and Bharat Maharaj was so stressed and so tensed that he keeps finding this deer in the entire forest, and it becomes dark. And then finally, in the dark, he couldn't see because it's a forest. So when he couldn't see, suddenly he falls in a huge uh, pit hole. And when he falls, he breaks his. Of course, he like falls and he gets hurt, and because of that, he dies there. And when he dies, the last thought that he had is, where is this baby deer? I hope the baby deer is safe. This was the last thought in the mind of Bharat Maharaj, which led to his next birth as a deer, because he was thinking of a deer. But because Bharat Maharaj was in such an exemplary, it had reached that exemplary platform of bhav. Therefore, out of causeless mercy, the Supreme Lord ensured that Bharat Maharaj retains his previous life memory as a deer also. We all may not be that fortunate. If we fall down, then we may not remember our previous life. Even in this life, we don't remember our previous life. We may have some notions, but we don't remember. So this deer, because this deer had the memory of previous life, Bharat Maharaj realized that, what have I done? What a foolish thing to do. Just imagine, for all of us, if we had to take, if we take another life, just because in this lifetime we just took it very lightly. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is going on, and all these activities are also going on, and little enjoyment. And see, we can't leave everything, so we have to do. Because of this attitude, we die in this lifetime, whenever it is. In the next lifetime, suppose we take birth as a non-human, means some animal, some bird, something. But like Bharat Maharaj, out of causeless mercy, we have the memory of this birth. Just put ourselves in place of Bharat Maharaj, that we have the memory. We met devotees, we were doing teachings of Lord Chaitanya class, we were doing some bhakti vrikshas, we had the sangha of devotees, everything we had, but because chalta hai, dhila dhala attitude. Therefore, now I am in a dog's body on a roadside, and I have to eat from the dustbin. People are kicking me. I am sleeping on the roadside, and suddenly a bike goes over my tail. Nobody cares if my limb is broken. Other dogs will come and bite and take out my flesh. But I have the memory of my previous lifetime. Bharat Maharaj had that memory. So in that dear body, he simply went ahead to seek the association of the devotees. He would simply sit quietly, listen to everything, would not eat the nice prasadam, but he would simply take some dry leaves to sustain his body as long as possible. Whatever is necessary, he would take. He would keep away from the association of all the female deers. Female deer means there will be attachment to the female deer. There will be attachment to all the calves that are born out of it, and then again another birth, again become a deer. So Bharat Maharaj kept away from all of these things, and finally time came as a deer. Bharat Maharaj gave up that body also, and then again he got a birth in a Brahmin family, in a very high class Brahmin family. But there, Bharat Maharaj, since he was still on a very high platform, as soon as he got the birth of the deer, immediately he went back to his higher consciousness. But in the body of a deer, what could he do? So therefore, when he got birth in the high class Brahmin family, he decided not to speak a word and not to waste time in external things. He went interno. There's a term, interno, that completely self-absorbed. Let me not waste any time. I don't care whether I am doing any preaching or not. Let me preach myself. I don't care whether others get delivered or not. The foolish thing that I have done, let me first deliver myself. So Bharat Maharaj, he would not respond. Whatever his father would teach him, he would behave as if he is not able to understand anything. Whatever would be told to him, he would do he would just simply do something else and come back, and people would call him crazy and mad and would call him he's a these days we have this um, uh, we say that okay, he's mentally challenged, so people would call him mentally challenged, and he would not take bath properly, so he looked also very shabby. Everybody thought he's a mentally challenged, he's a crazy person. Nobody bothered about him. His father was always worried about him, and his father gave up his life thinking about his son, Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat. He was called Jada Bharat. Jada means one who is stiff, useless, of no use. That's why this is called Jad Deha. We say no, this body is called Jada because it is useless, is a waste. So he was called Jada Bharat. So why I was sharing all of these things is connecting with the point of demigods, how demigods themselves give the highest respect to the devotees of Krishna. They give the highest respect to the devotees of Lord Vishnu because they themselves are the servants of Lord Vishnu, their master. And the devotees in the material world, they are given the highest respect because in the material world, it is even more difficult to practice Krishna consciousness. And these devotees are so dear to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the demigods are also giving their highest respect to the devotees. And that is why I am getting to this point that once this Bharat Maharaj as Jad Bharat, he was sitting and some uh, dacoits. Okay, it's a very common practice in West Bengal also. It's a very common practice. In fact, it even happens now also. It happens in South also, as far as I know. That dacoits, they bring someone to sacrifice in front of Mother Kali, so that to ask for some boon. These are very common practices. It happens in most part of this country, India. So they whoever they can catch hold of. But the thing is that the person should be there should be no cuts or burns or anything. It should not have any defects. So like that, one person, one dacoit, he desired to have a child, and for that desire he wanted to sacrifice, give offering of sacrifice to Mother Chamundi, so that Mother Chamundi would be pleased and would give him the boon. This is the thought process of the people who have poor fund of knowledge. This is the thinking of um, lower um, people with lower consciousness. So there they saw that this person is sitting, Jada Bharat is sitting. I thought that okay, this person anyways looks dumb, and he will not even say anything. Just let's catch hold of him and bring him. We will bathe him nicely, and then we will give him as an offering to Mother Kali, and Mother Kali will be very pleased. Plus, it is a human sacrifice. So in that situation, they took Bharat Maharaj, they took Jada Bharat, and then they bathed him and everything, and then they're about to sacrifice Jada Bharat. And that is when Mother Kali could not tolerate this offense to the pure devotee of the Lord. Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat, even in that body also, he is a pure devotee, constantly always thinking of the Lord. Therefore, Mother Kali immediately comes in her original form out of the deity and just cuts off the heads of all those dacoits who tried to sacrifice Jadabharat and protects Jadabharat. And she offers her respects to Jadabharat. And of course, Jadabharat is Jadabharat for the other people, but he is actually that same Bharat Maharaj. So he also offers his most respectful obeisances to Mother Kali. She is Ma Vaishnavi, and this is the proof how the demigods, they are always blessing and protecting the devotees of the Lord. That doesn't mean that we have to go and ask for some boon from them. We should never ask for anything from anybody else other than the Supreme Lord. Even if we want to ask something, ask from Krishna. Even if we want to ask, actually, we should not ask for anything, but even we have to ask something, ask from Krishna. Ask from the pure devotees of Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Maharaj. Express your heart to them, but never ask from anybody else. Therefore, the pure devotees of Lord, they never want anything from the demigods, but they offer the respects to the demigods. And the demigods also being pleased that they are doing such nice devotion, they always offer their blessings. And this is mentioned by Lord Shiva in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. There is Rudra Geet, the song of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva speaks to the Prachetas, and he says that I am very pleased when I meet the devotees of the Lord, and I automatically offer all my blessings to these devotees. They are very dear to me. The devotees who are serving Lord Krishna, they are very, very dear to me, and therefore I offer all my protection and blessings unto them. So, and Mother Parvati is who? The wife of Lord Shiva. So, if Lord Shiva is offering blessings, what do you think Mother Parvati is doing? She is also offering her blessings. And similarly, all the demigods. So, this is the strong, intimate connection of the demigods and the devotees of the Lord, not otherwise. So, thank you very much. Again, today we went almost like yesterday. So, we'll pause, we'll stop here for today. Krishna willing, again, we'll meet tomorrow and not extend so much, hopefully. Thank you very much. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.